Okay, class, now we're getting to the point where we're going to be doing some animation, and so I just want to give you some pointers on how to get your morph target set up for your characters, because you're going to be doing morphing. And so a couple of things that you need to know is you need to make sure that your transformations are correct on your character. As we're building a character, we're pushing and pulling and cutting and adding things to the geometry, and its relationships to its environment can be screwed up. You have two different coordinates for a model. You have its object's coordinates and you have its world coordinates. And so you want to make sure that our relationship is correct. So you want to make sure that you go from the top view, that your character is facing the front. And then you want to come in here and reset its transformation. So if you go over to your utility panel over here and you come down and you click Reset X Form, Reset Selected, this will put an X form on this to reset it and align it to our viewport, and then we just go ahead and convert it to a poly, bake that in, and now it's aligned to the viewport. Now, what we're doing when we're doing our animation and we're doing morphing is it's tracking the vertices. A lot of people don't understand this, but all of the vertices on this model is really what the computer pays attention to. It doesn't really pay attention to the actual polygons. It pays attention to the vertices, and it tracks the vertices. Every one of these vertices has a number on it. Okay, we can't get to it, but that's how it's remembered. And so what it's doing is it's calculating the distance from the pivot point. So wherever the pivot point is in the head, every vertex has an X, Y, and Z coordinate in relationship to that pivot point. Now, the reason that's important to understand that is because if I copy a character and I change his pivot point, okay, so if I come in here and change its pivot point, and then we come back and we put a morpher on this, and this is what we're going to do. You're going to create a morpher in here, okay, and to add something into the morpher, we just right-click on one of these empty slots and pick it, okay, and then we're going to be creating a morph from that, okay, so that's what we're going to be doing, okay, so make sure you don't change your pivot points, okay, because things will get out of whack. Okay, so here's our first character, and that's our base character. We want to just name him base head, and then make a copy of him. Now, any changes that I do, the relationship of the vertexes in relationship to the pivot point will be embedded into it. Now, there's lots of ways that you can do it, and the things you know of how to do is to take a vertex and move it, but that's really kind of a painful way to do this. Now, what I would tell you to do is one of the first things to do is we're going to animate the face, and so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick the polys in the back of the head, okay, and I'm going to hide those. So I'm going to go here, Sub-Object Selection, and hide those. That way, when I'm looking through the head, I don't see the back of the head, and I can't accidentally grab things in the back of the head and move it. Okay, now we have a ribbon up here, and we can go in here and do this freeform. And when I'm doing freeform, I've got a shift brush here. Okay, now the way the shift brush works is your control shift is the strength of this, okay, and the control button is the fall off. So it's 100% inside the white ring. There's nothing outside the black ring, and the distance between is a fall off. So the control key, hold that down, click your mouse, drag it up and down, and that changes the fall off, or control and shift, and that will control the size of this, okay? So we're going to get something like this, and now what I can do is come in here and I can start just kind of grabbing and painting on this. So if I want his brow to kind of go up, okay, maybe something as simple as that, okay, kind of like he's raising his brow. Okay, so we go back to this, and we're going to put our morpher on it. Now, you're going to have a mesh smooth on your stuff, okay? Just remember that the mesh smooth is adding vertices, so it has to be on top of the morpher. If it's below the morpher, and I right-click to come in here pick, it will not let me pick this, because the objects in a morph have to have the exact same amount of vertices, and this has been subdivided, so I can't pick this. Now, if the mesh smooths above it, okay, now I can pick this. So I can pick, and now I can pick this, okay, because it's still the same amount of geometry. So when you're doing your smooth, it will always go on top of it, okay? All right, so now I've embedded this in here. So when I pick this and I go to Morpher, if I go up 100% with this, then it's going to shift that. Okay, so then when you give it, and you can think of this stuff as in layers, and so you don't want to do, you want to think of things in layers. So I don't want to open the mouth and raise his eyebrow at the same time. Eyebrow on one thing, mouth on the other, so that I can have them on separate layers, okay? And then you'll want to name these, okay? So, and you can delete out of there, delete the channel, okay? So I'm going to call this one left eyebrow lift, okay? So then I come in here, right click, pick it, and it'll be in there, and that's what I'm doing, okay? All right, so I'm going to make a copy of this again, okay? Now I've got to go ahead and dump this morpher off of this copy. Now, let me show you a kind of a cool thing like with the mouth, okay? So one of the things is that there's different ways to select things, and that's kind of what the trick in here is, being able to figure that out. Now, let's say I want to do the bottom of the mouth. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab vertices, and I'm going to come up here under my selection, and I'm going to do paint, and I can just paint the vertices that I want in my selection. So you can paint them in here is one way to do it. Okay, that's kind of a cool way to do it. Okay, if you hold down your Alt key, okay, then we can get rid of them. Okay, you also have a freeform selection in here, which is kind of nice. I'm holding down the Control key because I don't want these top parts of the mouth right there. I don't want those vertices, those. I just want these down here. Okay, now if I grab and pull these, it's going to, be pretty drastic in the way it's doing that. Okay, what I want is kind of a fall off to it. Now, you have a soft selection in here that you can actually use. So when you go here, you got a soft selection, and we can pick this, and then you have a fall off. The problem that you get into is it's still going to leak up there and grab the tops of the mouth. So I don't want to do that, but I do want kind of a soft selection. So what you can do is there's a modifier in here called a freeform deformation, and there I'm going to use the FF 4x4x4. Now, what it allows me to do is to grab these actual points in here. So I go into my FFD here, control points, and I'm going to select these set of control points right here, and now I can move those, and so it's like a soft selection. Okay, so I'm going to do something like that. Maybe grab all of these right now and pull down. Okay, once I get it the way I want it, then I can just bake that in. Right-click and convert it to an editable poly to bake that in. I might come in and decide this is a little drastic right here, so I'm going to move those back in. Okay, fine. Okay, and so this is bottom... spell bottom lip drop. Okay, and then I come over here, go back to my original object, and the second one, right click, pick from scene, pick this one, and now I can actually come in here and I can do that. So I have two different things going on here that I can animate, and all these can be keyframed, which is what you're going to be doing. You'll be turning on your animation down here. So I'm going to zero these out, auto key, like frame 10. Okay, and then his eyebrow goes up, and then say by frame 18, then his mouth starts coming down, and then by 25, they're both all the way. So I've got this animation going on, and he's talking to you, okay? So that's basically the way it works. You're making multiple more targets. Now, the other thing that you need to know is, yes, okay, this is a question people ask me all the time. I do not need these anymore, okay? They are embedded in this, okay? So you've already embedded the movement of those vertices in this, so I do not need those. Now, I'd have a tendency to maybe save a file with them in there, but I can get them back out of here, okay? So if I go to 0 on this, this is my base file, but let's say I want this one where I drop the mouth again. So I'm going to go all the way up with this, all the way to 100%. That's the exact one that I've done over there. So if I go up here to my tools and I pull down to snapshot, snapshot makes a copy of an object based at its current place. So if I click OK, that's made me a copy. And so now let's just move it off so we can see. And I've got it, and I've pulled it. I grabbed the wrong one, but doesn't matter. Grab the base head, lock that, move it off. Okay, and so I've made a copy of that mesh. Okay, and so if I was to actually delete this out of here, okay, so I've lost that, but now I have it again, so I can pick it and pick this back in, and there we go again. Okay, so and you can make middle ones. Okay, so I can say let's make a piece that's part this one and part that one. Say right there. Okay, and then let's do a snapshot of that one. Okay. That's one over here. And so there's a new morph target that is a cross between those two, and then I could load that one back in as its own one in between. Okay, so that's how you can make morph targets. It takes a while, but you're going to make those. Look at your phonemes that you need. You don't. So you're trying to do some facial movements to create those phonemes, as well as doing some facial expressions as well too. Okay, and that's all you need to do. Okay, thank you very much.